Hey guys, welcome to the Max Invest YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the price predictions of a specific cryptocurrency analyst. Now recently, Raoul Pal, who is a macro investor and recently worked at Goldman Sachs, was on a Bankless podcast. On this podcast, he talked about how he thinks Ethereum is going to grow rapidly in its rate of adoption and how he believes it's going to go up 100x in the short term. So, if you enjoy the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and remember, nothing in this video is financial advice and you should always do your own research. I do also want to say, before we get into the bulk of the video, I don't look at analyst price predictions too much, and the reason I don't do that is because if an analyst says something is going to happen, that doesn't necessarily mean it is going to happen. A lot of the times these analysts can be wrong and it can be a little bit random. However, it is good to look at. I just wouldn't take anything Raoul Pal says as gospel, and I would listen to what he has to say, but I definitely wouldn't be buying Ethereum based off his price predictions. Anyway, let's get into the video. So the first thing Raoul Pal talked about is he talked about adoption long-term for cryptocurrency in general. He says that he firmly believes the space is going to 100x from 2 trillion to 200 trillion. Now, he didn't give an exact date for this, however, he did allude to the fact that it'll probably be in the next 10 years. He really was saying that cryptocurrency will probably 100x before 2030. Essentially, what he said is a blind chimp could choose any cryptocurrency and they would get rich immediately. So he was very strong that essentially all of the cryptocurrencies in this space are going to go up 100x in the medium term. Now, Raoul Pal even went on to say that 200 trillion definitely isn't the maximum for cryptocurrencies. He says all bonds, all assets, all securities are eventually going on chain, so the gains will probably be even bigger than 200 trillion. He was just using $200 trillion as a basis because that's where the current equity markets and real estate markets are right now. Raoul Pal went on to say that a 100x in cryptocurrency is staring everybody in the face, and he says it's probably the easiest opportunity in existence right now. He said no other generations have ever been given this opportunity to 100x their money. However, people right now are being given that opportunity with cryptocurrency, and he is very confident that it's going to do that, and there's a relatively low risk of that happening in his mind. Now, to really solidify this, Raoul Pal compared this to the internet. He said cryptocurrencies are currently growing 114% every year. On the other hand, the internet back in its early days was only growing at 63% every single year. So he's essentially saying that cryptos are growing even faster than the internet, if not kind of like the internet. They're both growing at a rapid pace. Of course, if cryptocurrency can continue this growth, there will be 1 billion people in cryptocurrency by the end of 2024, and then half of the world in cryptocurrency by 2027. So, if we really can sustain this insane growth rate, we're very quickly going to overtake the entire world with cryptocurrencies. Now, the reason Raoul Pal believed that this is actually a high possibility is because the internet did a very similar thing. Within 10 years or so, everyone in the world was using the internet from 10 years before when everyone in the world wasn't using the internet. Raoul Pal sees these as very, very similar events, and he can see cryptocurrency going on this same trajectory. Now, personally, I don't think cryptocurrency will continue to grow at 114% of the year, but it will probably flatten out. Despite this, I still do somewhat agree with what Raoul Pal is saying, and I do believe that eventually half the world to everybody in the world is going to be on-chain and using crypto. I just have a bit of a longer time horizon than him. Now, Raoul Pal then talked about what's in his portfolio. This is quite an important thing, as he is a multi-millionaire and he has worked at Goldman Sachs on higher levels, and he is a very famous macro investor. So it is definitely good to see where all of his money is being allocated to. He did say last year he had about 25% gold and about 75% Bitcoin. However, he said that this has dramatically changed from last year. He said he no longer owns any gold and he is 100% all in cryptocurrency. He then revealed that almost all of this 100%, or the vast majority of this 100% is in Ethereum. So he mostly has Ethereum right now, and he says that it is probably going to stay that way for the next couple of decades, as he really does believe in Ethereum. He did say that he still has some Bitcoin, however he is planning on selling all or almost all of that Bitcoin for Ethereum, and this is because he sees Ethereum as a lower risk cryptocurrency and a higher reward cryptocurrency than Bitcoin. So he did say from a portfolio standard view, there is no point having any Bitcoin in a portfolio. So this was very interesting, and I definitely do agree with him here. I do see Ethereum as fundamentally lower risk than Bitcoin, however higher reward and a lot more of a total addressable market. He then went on to talk about why Ethereum is one of the greatest trades of all time. He says that essentially this is one of the best opportunities that anybody can be given. Now, what he did say is there probably will be some cryptocurrencies that outperform Ethereum in the space, but he then said those cryptocurrencies are riskier and they have no ability to choose them. He doesn't know what they'll be, and they'll probably be random low-cap cryptocurrencies that he really doesn't know what they are. There's no ability to pick them. He did say though, Ethereum has all the elements of the lowest risk and highest quality trade. So what he's saying is he essentially knows with a lot of conviction that Ethereum will go up well over the long term, and it will go up really, really well. So, Raoul Pal did say that he's going to have most of his portfolio in Ethereum, as it's a very low risk asset in his opinion. However, the returns are completely insane. He expects it to 100x in the next decade, and he believes it's low risk, which is definitely very interesting. Now, Raoul Pal also went on to say that he says there's very little risk of Ethereum's technology failing, and he says this is just because there's a bunch of people who are much smarter than him working on Ethereum, which I definitely agree with. I personally believe Ethereum 2.0 is going to go through just as planned and very well because of this. Now, Raoul Pal believes that Ethereum can eventually be everything. He says it's the internet of value, and he did say when Ethereum, or when the cryptocurrency market goes from 2 trillion to 200 trillion, he can see Ethereum maintaining about 60% of that market, which is absolutely insane. He then went on to say that essentially everything can be done on Ethereum. However, the main thing that Ethereum needs to work on is Ethereum just needs to make it a bit more easier to really drive that mass adoption. We really need people to be using Ethereum without even knowing they're using Ethereum and having a very easy experience on Ethereum, and we're just not there just yet. However, once again, a lot of very smart people are working on Ethereum, and this is likely to happen over the next 10 or so years. Now, Raoul Pal then went on to some of the more specifics of why he really believes Ethereum is going to explode in the short term. Raoul Pal says he believes Ethereum can go north of $20,000 by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Now, I don't share this belief, and I think that's way too insane for a cryptocurrency to do in such a short period of time with such a high market cap. However, it's worth hearing out what he had to say. Now, Raoul Pal said EIP 1559 is an instant supply shock on Ethereum. Of course, we know EIP 1559 will burn the base fee of every transaction, which therefore means there's reduced issuance of Ethereum over the long term, and it will eventually become deflationary with proof of stake. So we know EIP 1559 is reducing supply. The next thing he discussed is on-chain analytics show that everybody is staking their Ethereum. Essentially, what people are doing is they're putting their Ethereum in staking. When you stake your Ethereum, what happens is you cannot unlock this Ethereum until ETH 2.0 comes out. So you can't even sell this Ethereum. That's another supply shock on the market. Raoul Pal then said, heaps of Ethereum is used as trustless collateral in decentralized finance, so there's a ton of ETH locked in DeFi that won't be moved, and there's also a ton of ETH locked up in NFTs right now. So essentially, this adds another layer of supply shocks. And then Raoul Pal said when he mapped out the amount of Ethereum supply actually circulating, it's only about 11% of supply circulating. Now, you can pair this while demand is growing exponentially, and Raoul Pal really believes Ethereum's price is going to absolutely explode in the next couple of months and essentially be 5 times higher, which is insane. So, as we can see, Raoul Pal is unbelievably bullish on Ethereum. He believes it's going to do very, very well in the long term, and he's allocated his portfolio accordingly. Now, I'll talk about some of the reasons I agree and disagree with Raoul Pal. Now, personally, I don't think Ethereum is going to go to 20,000 by the end of the year, and this is simply because Ethereum's market cap is now $450 billion. I don't think it can get to over $2.5 trillion by the end of the year. This is simply too much money, and I think it will take some more time. Also, a 100x in the next decade for Ethereum is probably a little bit too bullish. This would put ETH's price at around $400,000, which is absolutely insane, and I really don't know if it can get there in such a short period of time. Personally, I do think the adoption will take a little bit longer. However, like Raoul Pal, I do eventually see everyone in the world using Ethereum. I do see Ethereum's price going to $100,000, $400,000, $1 million, $10 million, and continue to go up over the long term. However, I don't believe this will happen overnight. It could take 20 or so years for ETH to get to 400,000, another 10 years for it to get to 5 or a million, 1.5 million, and it really will take quite a while for this adoption to come into play, in my opinion. I don't believe cryptocurrencies will continue to grow at 114% every year. I think they will slow down a bit, and it'll just take a bit longer than what Raoul Pal says. So, essentially, I do believe everything he says, however, I just believe the time horizon will be a little bit longer. Anyway, you guys can comment down below what you think. Do you agree with Raoul Pal? Do you disagree with him? Where do you think Ethereum's going to go? And where will the adoption be long term? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching the content.